update tonight, Smith County continues to work through projects related to a massive overhaul of roads and bridges. The work goes back to 2017 when voters passed the first phase of the plan, from which several projects are now being finished. And as the county moves through phase 2, engineer Frank Davis tells us work is already underway on some big projects, with more to come.
When we first started, we started with smaller projects because we want to kind of get into the progress of construction. And but these latter projects that we're doing, they're large. They're somewhere from 4 to 6 miles in length, and so they're several $1 million.
Davis says they're looking at completing phase 2 in the next 4 to 5 years. Among the most recently completed projects, County Road 2222 traveled frequently by Precinct 4 Constable Josh Joplin.
That is a textbook representation of why people voted for the road bond, and I can't stress to you enough the job that they did on that. It is very smooth. I can put coffee on my dashboard and drive it, and it will not spill.
And Joplin says, coming from someone who patrols that road and drives it personally, he appreciates the work done to improvement.